All right, everyone. Hello. You are listening to the Minding Mind podcast, where we live life with ease, connection, and permission to just be. I'm your host, Evelyn LeVasseur, and welcome back to another episode. Guys, this is about to be so good because I'm going to introduce you to Tiffany in just a minute. But Tiffany and I have been talking for a while, and I kind of feel like we've been talking over coffee for hours, but we haven't. Tiffany Archer is the CEO of Real Estate Rebel, and we're going to talk today about just recognizing who you are and recognizing who you get to be, and just being able to see that the things that you have gone through, while they may define a part of you, you also have choice in the woman that you get to be now and going forward. Recognizing how much of your growth as a human being is anchored in who you needed in your life to begin with. So I can't wait to get into this conversation. First, let me just tell you a quick little bit about Tiffany, and we'll get right into it. So Tiffany is a mother, wife, entrepreneur, and author. She's been in the real estate industry for over 20 years and now teaches women how to get started in real estate investing. She believes anyone can create the life of their dreams by practicing mindfulness through journaling and affirmations. This practice has changed her life's trajectory. She's a self-published author of the Manifest Dreams Affirmation Journal. Tiffany, I am so excited for this conversation. Welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you, Evelyn. I'm so excited and happy to be here. I really am. Thank you. It's truly a blessing.
Such a blessing to connect with women who literally just remind you of your own greatness.
Yes.
I'm here for that. So listen, I feel like our whole pre-recording conversation was like a whole podcast episode in and of itself. But I would love to, let's just get right into it. You were sharing about kind of your journey, where you started literally as a child and the way those things stuck with you, and then to create full circle opportunities for women that reflected who you were. I would love if you're comfortable sharing what you talked to me a little bit about.
Absolutely. It's amazing how things become full circle and you don't really realize it. When you're in the trenches, when you're in the storm, you can't see through the trees. But after all that subsides and you get to the other side, you're able to sometimes connect the dots. So for me, I grew up as an only child. I have a half sister and a half brother. They lived in a different household. But for the most part, I grew up with my mom. I grew up with my grandmother. And as I was disclosing and telling to you that we lived in a small house with my grandmother, but I never had my own. I slept on the couch in the living room from like all the way up until I guess I went into like the ninth grade of high school. So I never had that experience of having my own room. More importantly, I never had that experience of having my own home. And it really affected me throughout my whole adulthood. I'll explain to you how. And when I piece these together, you're like, okay, this makes complete sense on how she ended up being who she is today. So growing up as a child, never had my own home. When my mother when we moved out of my grandmother's house, my mother got her own apartment. We were staying there my freshman year of high school. I was so excited to finally have my own room, right? And then my senior year of high school, we became homeless and we lost everything, right? My mother ended up losing a job. And when she lost that job, we literally lost everything. Like she had put our personal belongings, our pictures, everything in storage. To this day, I don't have a picture of myself as a child. I have no yearbooks. I have nothing. And as a mom, it's kind of painful because I want to be able to show who I was as a child to my daughter. But I'm unable to do that. So I went through that experience of being homeless with my mom. It was a blessing because at the time when I graduated high school, I was going right into college, right? But even when that happened, I moved on campus, stayed on my own in my own dorm room, and guess what? My mom came with me. She was homeless. So I would sneak her into my dorm room late at night. We would set up a schedule. I would have her come in. She'd sleep in there. And I've had to deal with being personal, I'll tell you, my mom has always dealt with drug abuse, right? That's always been a part of her life. So here I am in college, trying to get my degree, worried about where my mom's going to be. Am I going to find her somewhere dead? Is she going to be out in the street somewhere? So our roles changed at 18. I now became the mother, and she became my child. So she stayed with me. And, like I said, we did that whole process up until when I graduated. Then I got my first job as a flight attendant. And I believe that I manifested that really, because as a child, my mother would always leave and go out of town, and we would go to the airport, but I never could go with her. And I would see those blue lights along the tarmac, and I would always say, one day that's going to be me. One day I'm going to be on a plane and I'm going to be the one going out of town. So fast forward, my first job, flight attendant. So of course, wherever I go, I take my mom with me. And I did that job for a few years, and September 11th happened. And when September 11th happened, I was like, you know what? I don't want to fly. I'm afraid I'm not about to get back on that airplane, right? So I was able to take 2.5 years off. So in that time, when I took the 2.5 years off, I got hired by a company by the name of Pitney Bowes doing outside sales. So I was excited because I got to do something, still have work. And one day they sent me to this conference, which is what they do. And in this conference, there's a lot of salespeople, a lot of renowned people, best at what they do. And you're talking and you're listening because you're trying to learn. And as I'm sitting there in this huge space listening, I see this man come on stage, and it resonated with me immediately, right? He comes on stage and he's talking about he's a multimillionaire. He's talking about how you can purchase property with no money down, and how he's done it and he's made all this money. He's a real estate investor. And I'm like, come on now, make money with no money down. What are you talking about? I could do this. And I didn't believe it, but he said, you know what? Trust me. If you interested, come to my course. I'm teaching this for the next couple of days for free at the Sheraton. Come check it out. So I went, checked it out, my now husband dragged him with me, taking notes, learning everything about how to be a real estate investor. And by day 2, he had told me some stuff and I wrote it all down, but the real stuff that I really needed to know, I had to pay for. He was like, okay, if you want to learn the rest, that's going to be $2,500. And at the time, you could have said $1 million. I didn't have $2,500. So I took that information. I said, I'm going to apply what I need to know, and I'm going to do what he said. So I did. I picked up the yellow pages. I'm dating myself now. I picked up the yellow pages. I'm calling every for sale by owner that I could possibly find, seeing if they want to sell their property. I called about 20 people. They all hung up on me. By the time I got to my 50th person, the guy answers the phone, and I says, are you interested in selling your property? And he was like, yeah, come and see it. And I was like, what do now? Because I literally didn't know. I wasn't expecting for someone to say yes. Go and I see the property. It's a duplex house in the front. There are 2 units in the back. He's showing me around. He's showing me the termite damage. He's telling me all of this. I'm like, okay. I go speak to the tenants. He shows me their units, and we're talking. As we get through with the tour, he says, okay, I'm selling this for like $450,000. I say to him, well, you know what, sir? I can't afford $450,000. I'm so sorry that I wasted your time. And he said, well, what do you do? And I said, I'm a flight attendant. And he said, okay. He was like, well, what are you planning on doing with this? And I said, well, I'm planning on putting flight attendants in these units. I'm going to turn them into what we call a crash pad and rent them out. He said, well, I have a friend that's a mortgage guy, and he wants to become an investor as well. Why don't you give him a call? I said, okay. So I called him. We sat down and we had lunch, and we're talking. And he says to me, Tiffany, I have the money. I'm the money guy. And we can purchase this property together. As a matter of fact, if you manage this property and you keep it occupied, we're partners. So don't worry about the money. Your name will be on the deed as well. And if it goes well, we'll get the unit next door, 6 additional units, and we'll have both, about a total of 9 units altogether. I said, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yes, that's all you have to do. I don't expect for you to come out of the pocket with any money. Don't worry about that. I'll take care of that." I said, "Okay." So we write up the contract, and I had 30 days to rescind, right? And at the time, as a flight attendant, I was moving to a different state. I had gotten my transfer. So I was like, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I think I can do this. So I move into the house. By day 15, I'm getting antsy. In my spirit, I knew that this was a move that I needed to take. I needed to do this deal with him. This is something that my heart, it resonated with me that I always wanted to do, but I was afraid because I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't even have anyone in my circle that could tell me whether or not I was making the right decision. So by day 15, I'm getting scared. So I started calling everybody. I'm calling my mama, I'm calling my friends, my cousins, I'm calling my man, and I'm asking everybody, what do you think I should do? Because I'm living in this house now. And we're about to move forward with this deal. And I'm terrified. I'm like, why would this man hook me up with another guy to buy his property? Are they trying to do something, run some kind of game? Like, what's going on? And everybody told me that I needed to back out of the deal and to rescind. And so I was like, they're like, Tiffany, you don't know what you're doing. Just back out. I was 27 at the time. I'm like, okay, but I had one friend, one girlfriend that was from the area where I was buying. And she told me not to. She said, Tiffany, I beg you, please don't do this. And I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm afraid. And I'm asking everyone and everyone's telling me I should back out. So I think I should. So I ended up backing out. So I moved back to New Jersey, right? I was there probably about 5 years. And one day my girlfriend calls me and she says to me, Tiffany, was that property located that you was about to purchase? And I said, oh, it was located in blah, 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 blah. And she was like, oh. She said, and what street was that on? And I was like, oh. So she said, girl, don't you know that whole area is yuppie land? The developers came in, they bought up all the properties, turned them into high rises. They were purchasing the homes and the multifamily properties for over $1 million. People were making so much money. And I said, what? You mean to tell me I could be a billionaire? What are you talking about? And she was like, girl, yes. So that was my first lesson. My first lesson was trust your intuition. When your gut, something that tells you that you should do something, even though you feel that you don't have the experience or the knowledge, trust in your intuition and move forward. Don't allow fear to stop you. The second lesson was get advice, seek counsel. I was so concerned about asking everybody else about what I should do. Half the people that I asked didn't even have a home. And I was asking them, what should I do? When I should have been seeking counsel from someone that was already doing what I wanted to do. And I said, from there, I will never let an opportunity like that pass me by again. That was like a lesson learned. So when I went back to Jersey, the first thing I did is I got my real estate license because I said I needed to understand the process. So I did that. And then I created my own real estate business. So one day I was talking to my husband and I was really trying to figure out why I was so drawn to real estate. Like, what is it? Because he's always telling me, even to this day, you're always helping people with real estate, giving them advice. And I love it. I just love it. But it doesn't have to be the aspect of selling houses. It's different parts of real estate that I love, right? Because there's different ways that you can make money in the industry. And I came to realize the reason why I was so drawn to real estate is because I never had a home. And being a part of real estate is my sense of security, right? So then I came to realize when I created the Real Estate Rebel organization that I wanted to lead that cause of being able to help other women that felt like me, that wanted to get into the business, that was interested in the business, show them how. Because although when that guy got on stage and said that you didn't need any money in order to buy real estate, he was absolutely right. I didn't need money. All I had to do was bring whatever I offered, my asset, to the table, right? And that wasn't financial. That was me being able to manage the property. That was me being able to keep it occupied, So there's different ways where you can form deals and partner with other people to buy properties. And it's not always about you having to have a lot of money to do
Mm,
that. And so I was connecting the dots and I was like, okay, this is why I'm so drawn, because this is my sense of security, right? And so then I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I need to share my knowledge after doing this for 20 something years, right? I need to share my knowledge. I've been a real estate agent. I've worked with brokers. I know how to inspect properties. I know all about foreclosures. I buy tax lien properties, right? Which a lot of people aren't familiar with. So I was like, how do I help others? Right. So that is my mission. My mission is to inspire, to motivate, to help other women. And I think part of the reason is I'm trying to help the 10-year-old me, the
mm,
15-year-old me, the 25-year-old me, the 30-year-old me, and now I'm 50, right? So I'm trying to help all of me and throughout this process, right? So that is my story. I kind of went a little bit, took a side note by that by giving you all the information, but it all links back. And I
yeah.
never knew that my purpose was through real estate, right?
Mm,
I use that as a vehicle though, because I feel like the true thing that I enjoy doing is inspiring and motivating others to let them know that they can achieve their dreams, no matter what that is. It doesn't have to be real estate, but you need to step out on faith. And if you feel something in your spirit that's telling you to do it, then you need to do it. And
mm.
it does not matter if you have any experience. It does not matter if you have the knowledge. Just trust your gut because it will never lead you astray.
I love that part of your story, just of because I've been there. Like I have a big decision to make, and I am asking
Mm,
everybody, right? When the lesson was that it wasn't you asking for knowledge, it was you asking because you didn't trust your own instinct. You didn't trust your
validation.
gut, right? Like wanting
Mm,
that validation. But before we continue talking about that, I just want to take a moment and hold space for that little girl in you that didn't have a bedroom, right? That didn't have that security of space, right? Because, as a whole adult now, you recognize that when you come home at the end of the day and the environment that you're in with the people that you're in it with really shapes how you see everything around you and how you see yourself, right? Your environment impacts the way you feel about yourself. So I can imagine that, like literally sleeping on a couch and not having a place that you were proud of that was your own, right? Like
yes,
that
yes,
had to impact a lot of how you saw the world and a lot of how you related to other people. And
yes.
I mean, I just want to honor that version of you that despite her current circumstances, still believed in more for yourself, right? Because there was the little fighter in you that said, there's more for me, that said, I'm going to college, that said, this could be my life, but I'm not going to choose this. I'm choosing me first, right?
Yeah.
So I like to think about the younger version of us with so much gratitude. Like when
Mm,
I look at the younger Evelyn, I tend to say, like, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so glad that you fought for me. So grateful that you, even when you didn't feel like you could, or even when you felt like you didn't want to, or even though, even through the times where you felt like thrown in the towel, right? Like, I'm so grateful that you held on so that I could be me. Like,
absolutely.
right? I
Absolutely.
wish, a part of me wishes that she recognized the love that she had for herself because it really came out in me, right? Like I'm
Absolutely.
so grateful to her and I'm so grateful to young Tiffany that a life of experience given to her, but also took that experience and became you.
Absolutely. And when you say grateful, I'm there with you. And to take it a step further, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, Tiffany. I'm proud of you that you had the drive and the determination when you were a child to know that there was more to life than the small little town that you lived in,
Mhm.
that you took the time to dream. Because a lot of times when we're children, we dream about what's possible. But
Mhm.
when we become adults, we stop dreaming. And I stopped. There was a period of time when I stopped dreaming. I was like, you know what? That's not possible. Who do I think I am? Why do I feel like I could teach somebody something? And then I came to the realization that yes, I can, because I have the experience, right? And I can have the best life that I ever want in life. I deserve it. And more importantly, I'm worthy. Because
Yes.
we think that we're not worthy. We think
Mhm.
that that person over there making that amount of money, they're worthy. It's not you. And I'm like, no, I'm worthy. I
Mhm.
deserve this, right? So that was the whole that's when the whole journey of being mindfulness and all that, that's when it began for me, when I had to realize who I was as a child. And like you said, I had to thank her, tell her that I'm grateful, let her know that I'm proud of her. And I had to do a lot of self-reflecting. I remember as a flight attendant, you live out a suitcase. And I knew how to do that well because remember, I ain't never have no home. So I remember when we first got maybe by the time we moved to our second place together, me and my husband, we had this argument, right? As a couple, we had been together for over 10 years at that point, had our first child or whatever. And he's like, why aren't you ever decorating the house? Like, what's up with this? Why this house looks so barren and bare? Why don't you decorate? And I was just like, cause I don't know. I'm hustling. I'm trying, we're in the process of trying to make things happen, and I'm not concerned about the house. And then I had to realize, well, damn, Tiffany, you're not concerned about the house because you ain't never had a home. And the reason why it doesn't look like a home is because you don't feel like you're going to be here that long. Because remember, when you were a child, you wasn't any place for a long period of time,
Mhm.
right? So yet again, piecing things together and recognizing and realizing that how I grew up, how it affects me now as an adult in a psychological way, because that
Mhm.
was very subconscious.
Yeah, you
It's very
because you don't the the ways that we were shaped have these stories in our mind that we accept as our reality, right? Like
Exactly.
I share sometimes about like my childhood. My parents were very loving. They always were very loving, but they also they raised us from a place of scarcity. Money was tight, and they both came here from very difficult backgrounds as well, right? So it was like they committed to raising us to survive, not thrive, you know?
Mhm.
So when I wanted something or I had big feelings, it was like, go to your room and figure that out. Go cry over there. Where eventually the story in my mind was, because as a child, you're literally, those stories create your beliefs and create your
Mhm.
personality. I learned that my feelings were an annoyance, that my
Mhm.
feelings weren't relevant, that in order
Mhm.
to keep the peace, I needed to keep my thoughts to myself, right?
Mhm.
Was that
Mhm.
their intention? No. But I grew up with that, right? And those are
Mhm.
things I had to unlearn and undo for myself as an adult, because I'll tell you right now, even at the ripe old age of 46, I can laugh with ease, but it is rare for any human being to see me cry because
Mhm.
I'm still working through that feeling of emotions are a burden to other people, or emotions are not relevant because crying's not going to get you what you need, right?
Mhm.
So even though those stories are there, there's the part of me that recognizes I also get to choose a different story. I get to hold space for Evelyn that needed emotional nurturing. and
Mm,
tell Evelyn today, like, your feelings are literally what make you who you are,
mm,
right? So there's that element of, I came from certain teachings, but I get to choose who I am going forward. And I made a post on Facebook. This was maybe a month or so ago, just a one-line post that said, at some point, you stop being the product of your environment and you become the product of your choices. And let me tell you something, that post struck some nerves.
nerves. Yes. Yes.
Nerves. I mean, listen, I got a notification this morning, and this post is like, I think 4 to 6 weeks old. It's like 50,000 shares or something like that, and 130,000 comments. Like,
Wow.
it's crazy because the majority of them are positive, but there's a lot of people that are like, this is short-sighted. You're not addressing trauma. You're not addressing
Mm,
abuse. You're blaming victims. And it's like, I feel like the conversation is nuanced, right? The fact that we came from somewhere and our life is a reflection of that often. And
right.
although it is nuanced, and although I wish every human being had access to therapy, I wish every human being had access to people that were supportive and helping them become the people that they were meant to be. I recognize that not everybody has that, but I
Right.
also recognize that everyone has choice,
Mm,
right?
mm-hmm.
Even if you were someone who had a very severely abusive existence, right? And you had access to therapy, therapy would help you work through the feelings that you have,
Mm,
help you acknowledge the feelings you had at that time, help you recognize how to create a sense of safety in your own body,
mm,
help you recognize how to make choices for yourself now. I feel like the common denominator is choice.
sure. Yes.
And I'm not saying that it's easy to choose things differently, but the option's there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How do you feel that intentionally or unintentionally you chose who you are today?
I feel like you will always eventually become who you're supposed to be, right? And sometimes that happens unintentionally. I feel like life experiences will put you on a path to lead you in the direction that you're supposed to go. Sometimes you may choose left and you may choose right. Maybe sometimes by choosing left, it's going to take you a little bit longer to get there, right? But you're going to always make it. I'm a firm believer that there's no such thing as mistakes.
Mhm.
It's just life experiences to get you back on track to where you need to be. So now being the ripe old age of 50, I'm a little bit more conscious and intentional about my choices,
Mhm.
right? Because now I feel like I'm on the path. I know, but I still use my intuitive guidance system within me, my gut, to help lead the way
Yeah.
when I'm making my decisions. But I can honestly say that it's a lot easier to make these decisions because I've taken away the fear of mistakes. I feel like when you take a risk, no matter how it pans out, it's never a mistake.
Mhm.
It's all going to guide you to where you ultimately need to be. You just have to learn some lessons before you get there, right? So for me, my journey has been partially unintentional,
Mhm.
right? And I think now I'm making it more intentional now that I'm aware
Yeah.
of what I'm supposed to do.
It sounds a little bit to me like you live similarly to the way I do, in that there is an awareness of choice, right? There is an awareness of intention, but also it's always, always, always guided by the faith that regardless of what I choose, I'm going to be okay
It's gonna be okay.
no matter what.
Absolutely.
Yes, I am the same way, in that I don't believe that we make mistakes. I believe we learn lessons, right?
Yeah.
I don't believe that I can fail. I believe that I just keep
Yeah.
learning, right?
And isn't that freeing? Isn't that empowering? Doesn't that open up so much? It just opens up a whole new world when you know that there's no mistakes. Just make a choice and decide to do whatever you want to do,
And
right?
either way, you are going to be okay.
And you're gonna be
You're
okay.
going to be okay. I love knowing that I get to wake up and choose for myself. And regardless of the outcome, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. And I think that has a lot to do with your identity no longer being wrapped up in who other people said you are or should be, and just
Hmm.
recognizing that you are whole as you are, right?
Hmm.
Like there is no striving to be greater than I am when I already love who I am.
Absolutely.
So, man, this is good. This is so good. I just wanted to touch briefly on the way that you actually help women today, because when you talked about seeing this man on stage and him saying that you can invest with no money, right?
No.
My mind immediately said, oh, that sounds like a scam.
Scam. Hello.
Sounds like a scam. But can you just talk a little bit about that? Because I don't feel that women, especially, have a lot of access to conversations around, I mean, investing in general, but then
Right.
real estate investing feels a little scary.
Absolutely. It does. And for me, I always wanted, like I said, I always wanted to ultimately become a real estate investor. I just didn't know how. I didn't have, they always say, "Oh, if you want to do it, you got to have a circle, you got to have a network." I have a circle, I didn't have a network. The stuff that I wanted, the things that I was interested in, I love my friends, love my family, but they weren't interested in that, right? And then you do have a few people that you try to talk to get on board. Let's invest together. Do this. And everyone is like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then when it comes down to it, people fall short. So for me, I learned from that one moment in Houston that it wasn't a scam and that you don't need money to buy property. You just need the knowledge and you need to know how to buy property, because there's
Mhm.
many different ways that you can invest in real estate. You can invest in real estate the traditional way, where you're going to a bank and you're trying to get a loan to be able to purchase the property. But there's other ways that you can get it. I invest in tax lien properties. Right? Those properties are, for me, where I live, the city and state that I live in is very expensive, right? So I had to learn, if I really wanted to get into this investing game, I had to invest outside of my backyard. A lot of people don't feel comfortable with that. But I also needed the knowledge, right? And that's an important aspect of it too. You can get the knowledge by experiences and making mistakes, or you could pay for the knowledge by doing a course, right? So for me, I took a course in tax liens. That's how I found out about purchasing tax lien properties. And what a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of wealth was built and created through tax liens, investing in tax liens,
Mm.
right? And banks do it, right? Syndicates do it. That's how they make their money. And I'll give you a little bit of information, because I don't know if the ladies are familiar with tax liens, and I'll explain it a little bit to give you a better understanding. So, tax lien properties, in essence, when you're a homeowner, you purchase your property, you have to pay taxes. Everybody does, right? But if you default on your taxes, they have the opportunity after a certain period of time to take that property away from you. It goes
Mm.
into auction, right? And this is separate from your mortgage, right? So a lot of times people that are in precarious situations, if they default on their taxes, that township, that city, that they will reclaim that property. Now, before they do this, they've sent you an insurmountable amount of warnings and letters letting you know you need to, catch up on your taxes, you need to pay your property taxes. But some people just literally fall short and they can't do it. So what they'll do is they'll put that property in auction, right? And what happens is when you get a tax lien property, it's a house or a property that has now been placed in auction because the taxes have been defaulted on them, right? So when you do the auction, you win the interest in the property. When it's a tax lien, you don't win the property yet, right? So you become, when you do the auction and you win the bid, whatever amount that is, you become the lien holder of that property. So if that person was behind on their property taxes, say by $3,000, and they start the bid at $2,000, and then it goes up to $3,000, and you win that bid, you don't actually win the property in that point in time. You become the lien holder, the person first in place of being able to claim that property. Now, what happens is the person who owns the property, the original property owner, they have a redemption period. They have a time frame where they can pay those taxes, right? But what happens is if you don't pay those taxes back within that time frame, which we call a redemption period, they lose the property. So what ends up happening is, with the tax lien, actually purchased my first house, tax lien house, for $2,500 in Indiana. $2,500. Now, I chose Indiana for a reason. I chose it because, the economy, the cost of living is a lot cheaper. Properties are a lot cheaper. I chose it because it's in a city that I feel is going to rebuild and grow over time, right? I see it as being very similar to Detroit. More importantly, I chose it because the redemption period is just 4 months. So after you do the auction and you win the bid, 4 months, the property owner has that time frame to be able to pay those taxes back. Now, for you as a lien holder, it's a win-win situation, because if they do pay the taxes back, you get paid interest on top of the money that you invested, right? And if they don't pay those taxes back, then you get to claim that property. You get to foreclose on that property. So it's a investor's way of making money. It's a great way of purchasing properties penny on the dollar. I always tell my friends, I say, every year you look for your tax returns, right? Like, everyone files their taxes. They're like, oh, I want my tax returns. I'm like, if you get your tax returns back, what do you do with that money? Wouldn't it be great if you took that money, $2,500, $2,000, $3,000, and was able to invest to buy you a house that is mortgage free? Because when you win the deed to the house, all the debt is wiped out. So there is no longer a mortgage on that house anymore.
Wow.
Right? So this was a way for me to start investing and becoming the real estate investor that I wanted to become. And I found out how to do this. But a lot of people aren't aware, especially women. Real estate is so dominated by men. It's a man's world, right? So part of my mission, yet again, is to be able to teach women how to buy. If you don't need a lot of money, you really, really don't. There's people that are behind on their mortgage and they're about to default and go into foreclosure. Well, guess what? You can assume their mortgage. You can do an arrangement, a contractual agreement with that individual and say, you know what, how much are you behind on your mortgage? Okay, well, so that you don't go into foreclosure and you don't have something on your credit report, so that you can move somewhere comfortably and not have to worry about being in default through foreclosure, whatever. How about if I get you caught up on that mortgage and I purchase this house from you? So what I'll do is I'll pay back whatever you owe on the mortgage, and then I'll assume that mortgage. So I'll continue to pay monthly. And what you'll do is you'll sign the deed over to me where I'm purchasing the house from you. That way I can alleviate you of your debt. That's one way that investors, I know, that's another way you can get properties, right? So if someone is behind by like $5,000 and you have $5,000, you can get a house for $5,000. What you can do is do the contractual agreement to purchase the house. And in the agreement, they're going to deed you the house. So you're now the new owner. You pay back that $5,000. They get to walk away free and clear. And then you just continue to pay the mortgage that they were originally paying. Right. Now what you do is you have a property. And if you want, you can sell it or you can rent it and get the rental income, right? So A lot of people aren't aware of that. And a lot of women aren't aware of that because we're not in the field. I bought a property for $2,500. The people are like, what? You're not aware of that. Mortgage free, right? So there's different ways of being able to obtain property, and you don't necessarily have to do it the traditional way by going through a bank. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't even recommend you doing it that way if you don't have to, right?
Mhm.
So I teach women a little bit about these different strategies, right? But then I also, if you're like in a place where you're like, Tiffany, I can't even pay my rent. I ain't got no money. I got this child in school. I got stuff to do. I need a second job. I'm barely maintaining. What are you talking about? I'm not about to invest in any properties. Well, guess what? I got you. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to make money right now on real estate deals so that you can walk away with some money in your pocket monthly. So we're going to create this stream of income. You're doing something that you're already interested in on the side, because I'm not telling you to quit your job. I'm saying this is an additional stream of income. And then once you accumulate the money that you need to accumulate, say you accumulate $5,000 or whatever, let's go get you a property. Or let's stack and save. And then after you've stacked up a certain amount of money, let's go get you a property. However you want to do it. So what I do is I partner in with wholesalers on their deals properties that they currently have under contract. And what they'll do is they'll call on property owners that are going through some kind of distress, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a death in a family, whether about to foreclose on a property. They'll call on these types of individuals and they'll offer them a cash deal on their house because they know they're motivated to sell. So I'll call you and I say, hi, Evelyn, you have this house. I'm interested in purchasing it. I'll purchase it from you cash and I'll give you $300,000 for it. Now, that wholesaler has already done his due diligence. He already knows the value of your house. He already kind of has an understanding of how much he could make off the property if you were to renovate it. But you're like, well, shoot, I'm about to go into foreclosure. Oh, $250,000 left on the mortgage. Walking away with $50,000 sounds real good right about now. Gets me out of my situation and out of my bind, because if not, they're going to just take it anyway. So he'll write up the offer for $300,000, right? And then he'll send that same property over to someone like me. And what I'll do is I'll market that property to an investor that's looking to buy. So he'll send it to me for, what did I say, $300,000. I'll put my fee on top for marketing the property. And let's just say I send it over, my fee's $10,000. I send it over to my investor for $310,000. Now, my investor is my client. He already knows my fee is embedded in the purchase price. The wholesaler who sent it to me already knows my fee is embedded into the purchase price, right? So we're all transparent about what's happening. The investor says, well, Dad, $310,000 for this house? Heck yeah, because I know when I renovate it, when I flip it, I'm going to sell it for $550 easy. This is a steal. Sign me up. What ends up happening is, because it's a cash deal, you close in about 21 days. So when he decides that he wants to sign it's an assignment contract that he signs with the wholesaler. And in that assignment contract, it has my company name that I am being paid, right? Once we close on that property, the original property owner gets to walk away free and clear with $50,000. The wholesaler made their money in between, whatever that was. I walk away with $10,000. And the investor walks away with a good investment property. So what I teach is I teach women how to do that business, where all you're really doing is you're a matchmaker. You're matching the wholesaler with the real estate investor, and you're bringing them together, and you're getting paid a marketing fee to do that, right? So I close on average $5,000 is the minimum that I usually make off of a deal. And it may be 21 days, it may be 30 days. And I do it part-time. This doesn't take up all my life. I don't have to go show the property to anybody, right? It's just about sending the information over to the real estate investor and him doing his analysis, which they do, and determining whether or not it's a good deal. And it's nice because it creates a stream of income for me on the side. but it also keeps me bedded and rooted in actually investing. And I learn more and more every day about real estate investing when I do this business as I do this business. I've
Mhm.
learned that a lot of investors will purchase a property from a wholesaler because usually those deals are cash deals. So they'll have to go to a hard money lender, which people aren't familiar with. They lend you money, cash, to renovate and purchase the property, but you have to do it within a certain time frame. What I learned was important, though, is that you can turn a hard money loan into an actual revolving mortgage. And
Mm.
this is some things that these real estate investors do when they buy properties. They'll start it off as a hard money purchase and then turn it into like a conventional or some type of other loan. So there's different ways of being able to purchase. There's different aspects and avenues of real estate that people aren't familiar with. What I do, I am a licensed agent, but you don't have to be licensed. In essence, when you do these deals with these wholesalers, you're being paid part of their assignment fee. So, as far as legalities is concerned, you're protected. You're not doing anything illegal. Most people just don't know, and
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know, right? So, in essence, because that's a lot of information I know that I just regurgitated, teach women how to make money doing real estate
Mm-hmm.
so that they can in turn buy their own real estate
Yep.
investment
I
property.
love that. I love that. And I love that you are able to help explain it in a way that doesn't feel like a foreign language.
Mhm.
Because as I was listening to you speak, although it feels like a lot, it was mostly clear. You know what I mean? I didn't
Oh,
feel
good.
confused while you were talking. And actually, it totally has piqued my interest. Thank you for that, Tiffany. Women or anyone wanted to reach out to you and talk about this further, or even talk about the affirmations and things that you use, like how can people connect with you? What types of help do you offer? Where can they find you?
So I am on social media. You can go to realestaterebel.org. That's the website. I will be launching courses. But right now, as I'm launching courses, I want to be able to communicate and talk to potential women that are interested. So if you wanted to, you could schedule a coaching call where we can kind of like just do a small evaluation. I can kind of know what your needs are, what you're seeking to do, what you want to do. And then from that, I can be able to decide how I can help you. Right. Because some
Awesome.
people may be further along, some people may be brand new, and I'm like, okay, I'm interested. I want to know how to do this, thing with this wholesaler. Or some people may be like, I'm already investing, but I want to know more about tax liens, right? Or
Mhm.
tax deeds, because they're tax deeds as well. So, you can go onto the website, you can leave your email address and just shoot me a contact. Just reach out, and then
Mhm.
I'll respond back to you whether you're interested in possibly taking a course, whether you're interested in maybe just doing a quick call, maybe coaching call or something just to see how I can assist you. You can go onto the real estate org. I'm also on Facebook, also on Instagram, and I just started my YouTube channel.
Okay.
Right? So if you want, I'm giving tidbits of information for free. So if you want to really learn about what I do, I'm doing segments and I'm putting out information through my YouTube channel with real estate.
Awesome. So in the show notes, I'll make sure to link your website, your Facebook, your Instagram, and YouTube, because I feel like what you're doing is help women create financial freedom, right? I love that. So everything will be linked there. Before I can let you go, though, Tiffany, even though I feel like we could talk for hours, I have to ask you the question of the hour. And the question of the hour is, how do you feel that minding yours, being intuitive, learning to follow your instincts, learning to stop asking everybody for advice, right?
Yes,
How do you feel
ma'am.
that minding yours impacts the legacy that you're going to leave?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think that it impacts the legacy that I'm going to leave because the legacy that I am going to leave is freedom. I want my child, I want all women to know that you can be free, right? Being free freedom doesn't necessarily have to equate to monetary money. Free is the freedom to live the life that you want to live authentically. and whatever that may be, in whatever area that you want to be in. I want my impact to be able to, my story to be able to show women what's possible, the possibility of whatever you want to do. It's possible. And once you step into that possibility and you're authentic and you know that you're guiding yourself through intuitively and what you're supposed to do, that's when freedom happens, right? That's when I feel like for me that you can truly be free, free to be who you are, free to live the life that you want to live, free to say and feel the way that you want to feel without worrying about judgment and criticism, right? So that's the legacy that I want to leave.
So beautiful. So, so beautiful. Tiffany, thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing your expertise, sharing your knowledge, and sharing your heart. And everyone else, thank you for joining us both today and tuning into another episode of Minding Mine. If this episode resonates with you, remember to comment, rate, and review the podcast. Your feed continuously helps me grow. And until next time, I want you to go live your life on your terms and mind your business. We will catch you in the next episode.
Yes.